Hello everyone and welcome back to another one of these top 10 or coaster lists, or yeah, I'll stop myself there. I did redo my worst coasters quite recently, so I thought what better way than to give you an updated list on my best coasters that I've ever ridden. So the coasters I've been on range from mainly in the UK, out into Europe a bit with a few parks out there, and Florida. There's nothing else to really say, to be fair. So without further ado, let's get into it. My mind is At number 10, we have SeaWorld Orlando's B&M flying coaster, known as Manta. This ride, especially after eating ice cream, is very intense. It was my first major flying coaster, considering the one before that I'd done was Air or Galactica or Alton Towers, which is obviously quite slow compared to Manta. And this one has a pretzel loop, lots of different inversions and whatnot, a splashdown element. The theming around it's brilliant as well. The pretzel loop after the drop on the back row is very intense. Like, it's insane. At number 9 is Mon Tue at Busch Gardens. You had Manta, now you have Mon Tue. They're both the same thing, honestly. They're both Mac-powered junior coasters like Runaway Mine Train. But Mon Tue at Busch Gardens is a B&M invert. Again, I have loads of these in my top 20, and I like them because they're just intense and whatnot, and as is Mon Tue. Mon Tue has a lot of inversions that are very close to the ground in some places, a really good first drop, and obviously it's somewhat themed towards the back end of it, but when you get further towards the other end of it, it's really hard to picture. I don't know why I'm talking about it in that kind of sense. It's just one half of it's themed a lot more than the other. That makes more sense. At number 8 is Stealth at Thorpe Park in the front row. Specifically in the front row. Anywhere further back, I'd say it ranks quite a bit lower. But the front row, even at night or in day, just amazing. It's the acceleration you get from the launch and whatnot. It's extremely fast, funnily enough. And the height you get on it, although it is 200 feet and there's obviously coasters a lot higher, it still is amazing how you just crest over that and see the entire park in front of you, drop back down, and then you have a little bit of... People say there's no airtime on it, but yeah, there sort of is if you sit in the back row. The fact it is quite short, and it's not very long in duration and whatnot, doesn't really mean much. The speed of it, the height, and the acceleration just make it for me. At number 7, following the previous UK coaster, you have Nemesis at Alton Towers, again in the UK. It's a brilliant ride. It may be short, it may be a little bit short in height especially. It's better than Nemesis in fun. But honestly, the speed it gets is just out of nowhere, and it just picks it up from that tiny little drop going down from the lift hill, going into that first inversion. The helix down after that corkscrew, down into the 0G roll. Again, one of the most intense things I've experienced. Doesn't quite top Bountzilla and running for the world record. It didn't go well. At number 6 is Cheetah Hunt, multi-launch by Intamin. And I think you can tell I like launch coasters, and it doesn't disappoint. It's got very nice wildlife around it. Yes, not theming, but it's kind of half and half. The Rhino Rally section, I always say this, but it's a very good part where you S-bend back and forth and you just go into the third launch. It has some airtime to it. The launches are decently fast. Although if you completely forget that there's a first launch that just propels it in about like 4 miles an hour, then it kind of can be a little bit underwhelming. On to the top 5, where we have at number 5, Mako at SeaWorld Orlando again. But yes, this ride, it's about 200 foot tall. I think it's just over. The colour scheme of it is really nice, and it goes around this lake that you can see a lot of the park from, which is really nice. And genuinely has a lot of airtime, and it's just a brilliant overall ride. I'm pretty sure there was one airtime moment towards the end where I didn't really see it coming, and my whole body just leant forward and almost broke in half. Oh, Dan broke coming soon, guys. There is a trim on one of those airtime hills. I know I always mention this whenever I do a top 10 about this ride. It does kill the airtime a little bit, but you can understand why it's there after some time. Overall, a very good ride, very nice colour scheme, and it has lift audio. That is brilliant. At number 4, if you've seen my best UK coaster video, You probably know this is coming because I did mention how it is quite high up in my top 10. Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. The first Mac multi-launch in the country, and is honestly amazing. The airtime you get on it, especially in the back row, is insane. The front row provides a very good amount of views. You obviously go under and over so many different rides, like Steeplechase, Big Dipper, the big one. All of these rides you go over and under, and it's honestly, it's a very good ride, and it's got quite a bit to it as well. As I said, it's got a lot of airtime. The launches aren't exactly that fast, but they're not supposed to be. They're just to propel the ride to its top speed and then just leave it off to do what it needs to do best. And then, obviously, as I said, airtime, 2 or 1 inversion, depending on how you want to count it. But the Immelman, the junior Immelman, when you're on the back row, you get whipped over that. Really good as well. There's a load of different sections that you get a lot of airtime and you get whipped over. There's an intense part where you go down into Helix after 1 airtime hill and then go up and rise up and whip over to the other side. It's really good ride, and I'm really happy we have something like it in the UK, and I'd love to see more. Thorpe Park RMC no longer a thing. Into the top 3 now, and we have Red Force. Again, like Stealth, only in the front row. Anywhere further back on Red Force, I would admittedly say it's probably not even in my top 20, because further towards the back, it is honestly very bumpy. It's not rough, it's not uncomfortable, it is bumpy. But the front row on it, the speed you get, not the acceleration per se, but the speed you get is insane. You have to wear goggles on the front, but that's not really a thing for the speed. That's more just in case you get hit by a bird. And then you go all the way up 357 feet in the air after you've reached 111 mile an hour or whatever it is, and you just see the entirety of Salou from the top, and then you just plummet back down. There's a little bit of airtime on the top, and when you go into the brakes at the end, which is really good. This used to be my number 1 over Shambhala and whatnot. I just spoiled my top. At number 2, just across from Red Force, is Shambhala at Portaventura Park. Honestly, it's still probably one of my favourite coasters. Well, there you go. It's ranked 2. Why am I saying that? It's around 250 foot tall, and it has a lot of airtime. A lot. You go over quite a few of the hills, and you kind of get floated out your seat quite a bit, because obviously it's floater airtime, and then the ejector hill just after the figure 8 helix, which is a really nice part of the ride, by the way. That bit is definitely my favourite part. It's so good. And then quickly after that hill, you rise up again to go into another hill, followed by a splashdown, which again, a really nice part of the ride. The ride itself isn't really themed towards the back end, where the figure 8 helix and whatnot is, but the more you get towards the station side of it, it's a lot more well themed in the China area that it's in. So at number 1, you can probably see it from the thumbnail already, is Taron at Fantasyland. What a ride this is. It's packed with a lot of different elements. It goes over and under itself so many times. So much so, it holds the world record for the amount of crossover section tracks things ever. I didn't get that out correctly. The theming in Fantasyland as a whole, and in Klugheim, which is the area Taron is in, it's insane. Literally, as soon as you get on the ride, you turn the corner, you see that first launch. Bear in mind, this was my bucket list coaster since 2016 when it first opened, and I finally got to ride it this year. It was insane. And to be fair, riding it in the daytime, it is a little bit slower than you'd expect. The second section isn't at all, that bit's insane. But the first section was a little bit slow. But as the day progressed and ERT came, night rides on it are insane. You go up, round, there's a bit of airtime that you do get. There's a really good transition where you literally get whipped out your seat really quickly coming out of a tunnel, and then you hit the second launch. It's insanely fast. You turn up, you get hit by a waterfall if you're sitting on the left, which is again added theming, although sometimes it can hurt a bit. But you raise up, go all the way, turns and stuff, and then you just hit this area where you go bank really heavily down through some rocks, and you just come up, twist over, down into another building. It's relentless, it honestly is. Anyway, that wraps up my top 10 coasters. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you got to this point, I appreciate it. And if you are watching as part of the 5 days of Christmas, then I appreciate the support. And I've completed it now, which is really weird to think of because I'm awful at scheduling uploads. But yes, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, it'd be greatly appreciated if you could subscribe. We're almost at 5k at the time of recording this, and I'd really appreciate it if you could maybe help towards that. But it's up to you. If you don't like the content you see, then fair enough. But if you do, then yeah, I sound like a beg. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you are watching this on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or any time shortly after that, I hope you did have a good Christmas or are going to have one. So, Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy New Year. Maybe even Merry Easter. Happy Halloween. It really depends when you're watching this video. But yeah, I appreciate it all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.